Hello, everyone. I'm Mystery.
And I am Dalton Mortimer, otherwise known as the Authenticator, and we are the Duality of Man. And it becomes behoovant to any men's rights or men's issues thing on the YouTubes to occasionally bring up the elephant in the room known as custody. And be warned, this one's a doozy.
Yeah, so essentially, uh, this case is going to be about a young boy who was in previously in the custody of his father, but during a custody battle between his parents, uh, the court granted custody to his mother. Now there is you know a frequent number of cases that where that is the result. The fathers get shafted on custody
Yeah,
because
it's
people
it's
just
almost
assume
the
the mother.
default position. That's that's slowly being chipped away at, thanks to so many high-profile examples of it going wrong. But the worm isn't turning quite as quickly as one would hope.
Yeah, and in this case, it ended up with an innocent child dead. So it really needs to be reconsidered how the courts establish custody. Now, this case did happen in Argentina, not the United States, but no matter where it happens, a little boy lost his life because the court failed in its duty to protect him.
Yep.
So I have a news article here that covers the case, and I'm going to read through it. It says, amid the controversy over Angel Nicolas Lopez, the 4-year-old boy who died on Easter Sunday, it was discovered that his biological mother, Mariela Altamirano, had a history of abuse and had already been removed from her possession of another child. Even so, the justice of Comodoro Rivadavia had ordered that Lopez live with her. So this woman was known to be abusive and actually had another child removed from her care, and the judge still ordered that the boy go and live with his mother.
Okay, even outside of the bias thing and the men's rights of it all and the anti-feminism of it all, which are all valid vectors through which to examine this, do courts just not keep or communicate their records to each other? Because if this has already been a thing that's ruled, like she's already lost the custody of one child for reasons of abuse, then surely someone somewhere should have, either at the police station or in the courts, or like records, keep them, and communicate them with one another. Like surely this isn't even just a classic MRA thing at this point. This is just a, guys, records don't do you any good unless you communicate them with each other.
Yeah, and you know, I, the father, I believe, had an attorney and was fighting, but there's an additional reason about why the boy got sent to live with his mother that we'll touch on a bit later. But yeah, even with the additional factor, the ultimate judge should have looked at this history of abuse and still rejected her petition for custody outright. Like, you cannot leave a child with someone who's already been shown to be abusive to children.
Yeah, and if she was bad enough that she got one child taken away from her, I'm gonna hazard a guess that she's not going to have some kind of monkey touch the monolith aha moment and suddenly be fine with this other child.
Getting back to the article, the boy died around midnight in the intensive care unit of the regional hospital after being admitted that same morning after being decompensated in Altamirano's house. Initially, doctors identified cardiorespiratory arrest, but no visible signs of external violence. However, the preliminary autopsy revealed that the presence of internal injuries to the head. So I believe in another article that I read a couple months ago, it said that he had pneumonia with a combination of head trauma. So it's possible that he was ill from pneumonia and was, upset and maybe crying or something, and then to shut him up, the mother's boyfriend just hit him in the head repeatedly.
Head trauma to a 4-year-old child. This is the kind of shit you literally cannot make up because no one's imagination is that fucking sadistic. Holy fucking hell. And again, if this was completely unknown to the courts, that would be one thing. Still not an excuse, and fuck the courts entirely. But in this particular instance, they knew. They knew ahead of time, and no one thought to communicate this information to the relevant people when the custody came up. Like, incompetence is always a terrible, terrible thing, and incompetence should always be decried and punished and what have you. But this level of incompetence is sadistic and resulted in the death of a 4-year-old child. I,
His father, Luis Lopez, says that there is no doubt about what happened. My son was killed.
I, I can't imagine what must be going through his head. Because, I mean, presumably he also knew that she had a history of abuse, and therefore that was probably one of the primary reasons he was fighting her for custody. Um, so imagine being this guy, full knowing that she's an abuser, and not wanting to leave your child with her, and then push comes to shove, and your son is now dead because the courts, while they knew enough to take her previous child away from her, did not communicate this information to the people in your case, and now your child is dead.
Yeah.
Holy fucking shit, guys.
Says the controversy in the midst of the angel tragedy responds to the resemblance to the case of Lucio Dupuy, which is the second case we're going to talk about, a 5-year-old boy who was murdered in November 2021 in Santa Rosa La Pampa, which is also in Argentina, after suffering months of torture and abuse by his mother and her girlfriend.
So, while we're here, comes the time where I get to be a little bit smug because yet again, lesbians in particular seem uniquely prone to abusing children, and it's the male relationships that are on record as being the least abusive. So, when are we going to readdress that men are sadistic and violent stereotype, and women are harmless and never do anything wrong stereotype? Just
Uh,
just saying, because this isn't just, we're not playing for peanuts here. These are children's lives at stake.
yeah. I believe it's also been proven that single father households produce better results for things like education and adjustment than single mother households.
Somehow I am not surprised. I mean, obviously, single parenthood is to be avoided whenever it can feasibly be avoided, because it it helps children to have as many caregivers in their lives as possible, up to and including the extended family where possible. But the data suggests that that sacred vag of the woman card there, it doesn't exist, and this this article of gynocentric traditionalist faith and feminist faith, it's it's having very deadly and abusive consequences. So again, we're not like, if this was just a incidental playing for peanuts sort of thing, that would be one thing. But effectively, toddlers die of severe head trauma in the one case because women, for whatever reason, can't, especially lesbian women, can't understand the notion that children, particularly male children, are sometimes fragile. Because something patriarchy, I'm guessing. And yes, I am blaming feminism and traditionalism for this, particularly the gynocentric kind of traditionalism, because that boys become men and therefore need to be invulnerable to fucking everything shtick is part of the problem here. And that women are wonderful and can do no wrong shtick, also a significant vector of the problem here.
Well, that actually does come up in both these cases. We can have some details we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but it says regarding the recent case, it was carried out by prosecutor Facundo Oribones, who charged Aldemirano and his, I believe that's supposed to be her partner, although both remain at large. So they're not even, at least at the time of this article written, they're not even in custody. In addition, information was requested from Misiones and Corrientes, where the child's mother would have lived to reconstruct possible previous complaints. See, it says the repugnable decision of the justice. The case exposes a previous judicial dispute over the possession of the child. Angel had lived happily for years with his father and with Lorena Andrade, who raised him from an early age, like his stepmother.
And
However,
again, go ahead. Sorry.
On November 4th, the justice decided to initiate a process of reconnection and granted custody to the biological mother. The decision was made by Judge Juan Pablo Perez, even though there was a history of abuse and removal from the possession of another child. According to the family environment, that ruling marked a turning point in the child's life.
Okay,
I believe
two
this.
things. The first is the again obvious, why were none of these records communicated across judiciaries here? Surely there should be some kind of natural database, like a national database for something like this, or international database for fuck's sake. But that's I've already covered that, so I'm not going to belabor it too much. But
It's possible the judge did know, but was going under the, stupid logic of, oh, perhaps she deserves another chance. Perhaps she's changed or
well, and
whatever
that's
bullshit.
the second thing. That's the second thing I want to bitch about, because the way that that's phrased, the process of reconnection, one is perpetrating the women are wonderful effect thing of, oh, she couldn't possibly be that bad, and also to some degree pathologizing men, because the rhetoric of reconnection implies that the father is keeping their child away from the mother. And one, there are cases, behold the cases, where that is an entirely valid thing to do. And two, again, if this woman has a record of abuse, why is it that she gets second chances at worst and women are wonderful effect at best? But if a man was thought to be abusive, even erroneously, not only would he never get a second chance, he would either be locked up in perpetuity forevermore, or more than likely, because the court of public opinion is also a thing, possibly lynched, because angry mobs tend to be very angry indeed when it comes to the idea of men abusing children. And women abusing children usually get the whistle, whistle, nothing to see here, or it's such an outlier that we have to treat women like the default parent anyway, regardless of any context thing.
It is possible that the previous abuse case was a situation where the abuse did not progress to this extent because the child was removed before it could. So perhaps the judge was saw like, oh, it wasn't that bad because in that situation the court's managed to save the child.
But
So the
again, I must ask the question. In almost no case whatsoever does a man get the "oh, but it wasn't that bad" excuse. In almost every case of even potential abuse, whether it's true or whether it's erroneous, the 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 sentencing is final, and that man is lucky if he doesn't get lynched by his own neighbors.
well, I don't believe we have the final. We have the details of the second child that she lost custody of. So we can speculate, but we really have no definitive way of knowing how what went down in that case.
True, it's just the psychotic double standards that's pissing me off is the thing. I realize I'm speculating and in some sense projecting things that are ordinarily the norm onto this case, but it's these kind of double standards that lead to these kind of situations for women and women uniquely, and almost never men.
So the article says, according to Andrade's testimony, the biological mother had been absent shortly after birth and returned only in 2025. Despite this, the judicial process that led to the change of custody progressed. From that moment on, the father's relatives say the situations of distress began for the child. So this was a happy boy until the justice system decided to reintroduce this evil woman back into his life, and it ends in tragedy. Her leaving shortly afterwards was probably the best thing she could have done for that child.
Also, just throwing this out there, how badly are men who up and disappeared decried again? How ready and willing and able are the court of public opinion to ba- to brand someone a deadbeat and then shit on them forevermore? And yet, woman gives birth to child. Woman fucks off into what would be deadbeatville for any man under the yellow sun. But woman comes back 4 or 5 years later, and oh, obviously she deserves a second chance with her child. Obviously, even though this child has a stepmother who has been also taking advantage, who has also been helping to raise him in her absence this entire time. And that's the other thing. Obviously, we are a men's issues show, and obviously shining a spotlight on issues that men face and demonization that men face uniquely is part of our shtick. But in this instance, the women are wonderful halo effect also has robbed this child of a stepmother who actually did appear to care about the child, who very much did provide a stable and happy and healthy home life for said child, at least as far as we can tell, and at the very least was not in any meaningful way abusive, so far as we can tell.
Yeah,
So,
by all accounts, the child was happy, and then government got involved.
so you're telling me that you're going to kill this father's uh, child by way of incompetence, and in the name of giving the biological mother a women are wonderful halo effect, are basically default casting the stepmother who has been an active presence in her child's life from the get-go, essentially, as what, the evil stepmother? Is that what we're doing? We're betting children's lives on the logic of the Grimm brothers fairy tales now? Is that literally where we're going? Not to mention the classic chestnut of um, benevolence to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent thing. Because in the name of giving the bio mom the women are wonderful effect, you you robbed this stepmother who by all accounts was a good mother to her her stepson. um now that stepmother has to deal with a corpse because you wanted to give this deadbeat biological mother the women are wonderful effect. So congratulations, congratulations courts, in trying to give this deadbeat biological mother a women are wonderful effect halo. You've also hurt women. Fascinating how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. It says videos released by Andrade show Angel resisting going to his mother. In one of them, recorded on March 9th, he is heard saying, "I'm staying here," while expressing his desire to remain in the home where he lived. That same day, a perimeter restriction came into effect, preventing the father and his environment from approaching the child. For the family, that episode anticipated the outcome. We went to the ombudsman's office. Child protection didn't listen to us, who should have protected him, but decided to abuse his power.
So the child also indicated his desire to remain with the family with which he was happy. And his opinion also didn't matter vis-a-vis the women are wonderful, she couldn't possibly be that bad, and under no circumstances are we going to call her a deadbeat approach.
Yeah,
That's
so it would seem that this was not a single instance of abuse, but a series of abuses that the system failed to intervene in, and which ultimately led to the child's death. So, it would seem that the father and his family knew that the child was being abused while in the mother's custody, and went to the proper authorities to try and, get them to, get custody again, but they did not listen.
these are the costs you play with when you do jurisprudence by way of multiple choice stereotype exam rather than treating people like individuals with individual cases and individual circumstances, which I guess that's okay if you don't mind dead children. Fucking hell.
The question that I have to ask to the biological mother is why, if you're just going to abuse and eventually murder this child, why would you even come back? You are better off gone. There was
Because
literally no benefit to you.
I'm betting she's not sane. I'm betting what we have here is an untreated case of cluster B yet again.
It's also possible that she wanted child support if she's made the main caretaker of the child. I don't know how Argentinian laws work, but it's possible the father would have had to pay child support to her.
But even that logic doesn't hold up because it's not like the father was trying to be a single father either. He had a significant other with which the child was very familiar and who was very active in his life. So again, um, in
So it's
order
not
to
about the
get
it's not about whether the father was a deadbeat. It's about her, because she also had a boyfriend, which is who was also most likely a piece of shit as well, and so it's probably just a way for them to extract money out of the father
so
via the
yeah,
child.
you're actively choosing the probably abusive and on record as being abusive parent over the two parents that are a positive impact on the child and who the child indicated he wanted to stay with. Cruelty to the innocent, or uh,
Mercy
innocence
to
to
the
the
cruel.
cruel is cruelty to the innocent, as the saying goes.
Says on Grande wrote on social networks along with images of the minor marks on his skin. So there were like scars on Angel Lopez's skin. Uh, the father also questioned the judicial process. A reconnection was never made and maintained that the boy didn't know his supposed mother. In addition, he recalled that he had warned the authorities about the risk. I told them that something was going to happen to my son with that woman, and it happened. I warned protection, my lawyer, everyone. So he told them straight up exactly who this woman was, and he has every right to sue the living shit out of everyone involved in this case, and I hope he does, and I hope he ruins them.
And what's more, every judge or legal official that was involved in this overt, willful miscarriage of justice, not only should they be disbarred and prevented from ever doing anything with law ever again, they should be flogged. Like, I I'm not going to go so far as to say they should be executed, but they should be flogged. A child is dead, avoidably so, and everyone and their dog told you what was going to happen because it was very, very predictable, and it was on official record. So this isn't even a case of the institutions were blind. No, the institutions were functioning correctly the first time when this woman had her child taken away, but but
There is no
apparently no one thought that that record should perhaps be admissible to the current case or anything.
yeah, his case to sue them is bulletproof because there is no justifiable reason for the decision that the judge made. And not only that, but even after the judge made the decision, there's no reason, especially given this woman's history, why Child Protective Services didn't get involved.
Like child protective services, frankly, if anything, at least in America, I don't know how it is in Argentina, but child protective services, if anything, is more inclined to meddle than they should be. So why was this the one-off case? Why was this the one case where Child Protective Services didn't come down on everyone like a ton of bricks? Because again, under normal circumstances, again, at least in America, I can't speak to Argentina, but at least in America, Child Protective Services, if anything, is oversensitive to such issues. And yet, in defiance of all logic and all documentable like person history, both in just life in general, but also in the judiciary. That's the thing. In order for this judge to have his head wedged so far up his ass that he's willing to, oh, but she couldn't possibly be that bad to this abusive woman. Um, he not only has to go against all the available evidence and the whim of the child and both parents that actually do care about the child, but also has to ignore the previous case involving this woman, or, and again, this is where I will bitch at the judiciary system. He was simply not made aware of it. In which case, fuck the judiciary system.
But the thing is, Child Protective Services in Argentina should be infinitely aware of it because they already dealt with this woman once, and she lost custody of that child.
Yeah, why was none of this documented, or if it was documented, what force on this earth made this judge look at this woman with a history of abuse and ignore all of the available documentation and the whim of the child and the whim of both of the parents with no history of violence or abuse?
The giant flashing neon bright warning signs that this woman had all over her.
How many feet higher do the neon letters need to be, Senor Judge?
It says, in the same vein, he said, I took care of my son and broke my spine 4 years and nothing ever happened to him. The people who are here know what father I was and what I suffered. They gave it to him for 3 months and he killed me. This is probably a poor translation of the article that I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
but it most likely they gave him to them for 3 months and they killed him. That's probably what it was meant to say.
Killed
Finally,
the child in 3 months of having it.
says finally he
I'm not prone to using the term evil very often, but this one, no, this is just evil.
says finally he demanded justice. I asked for my son while he was alive, and they handed him over to me dead. I wanted my son alive. He wanted to be with people who loved him, and they gave him to a person he didn't know. So that's what all the other clusters say. But there is one additional factor that I'm going to read because I remember this being an aspect of the case, but it's not mentioned in the article, so I had to look it up on Grok.
Hmm.
There it says Jennifer Grisel Leva, also referred to as Jennifer Leva, a psychologist working with the Servicio de Protección de Derechos, or Child Protection Services in Argentina, or in that province of Argentina, played a central role in the custody unification process. See, she was part of the team that evaluated whether or not Angel should go with his mother. The reports were key to the family court judge deciding to transfer custody of Angel from his father slash stepmother, who had raised him back to his biological mother. This was around November 2025. Critics, including the father's legal team, alleged that her reports downplayed or ignored warnings. Angels expressed distress and reluctance to go with his biological mother, captured in videos where he cried and pleaded, signs of possible prior mistreatment, the mother's history, including the loss of custody of another child, and the father's repeated concerns. Reports indicated that an environmental slash home assessment of the mother's household may not have been properly conducted. The father, Luis Lopez, had publicly stated that he showed Leva videos of Angel in distress, but claimed she dismissed them, treating him dismissively, laughing at him or calling him ignorant, and accused him of generating situations of violence or re-victimization. Where have we heard that language before?
This may be an illegal move, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Gee, I wonder if this meddling HR fucking Karen that worked for Child Protective Services was, oh, I don't know, an intersectional feminist or something.
That's that's what I heard a lot of people saying on social media when they back in April when they were first talking about this case. See, a key recording, a recorded 24-minute conversation from around early December 2025 between Luis Lopez and Jennifer Leva was later made public. In it, Lopez expressed that Angel wants to live with me, not with his mom, and is not well. He warns, "You're going to realize when they kill my son," and variations like, "They're waiting for them to kill him." Leva responds with comments like, "How scary," in what many interpret as a sarcastic or dismissive tone,
Ooh,
and
the
accuses him
snark.
of creating conflict.
Ooh, the fucking smug HR cunt. Just
Lopez claims he recorded interactions due to feeling unheard by the system. Smart move. Unfortunately, it was not enough to save his son because it really does seem like literally the entire system was just out to screw this man.
So you bet this child's life and at least four people's happiness on intersectional feminist talking points and the smug harpiness of an HR Karen. And now the child's dead, and I will point this out for if if you're gonna go this hard into the women are wonderful effect, then I'm gonna have to bring this up. What was wrong with the stepmother? What like even if the man was verboten because intersectional feminism, how how much did the stepmother plead? How much did you insist that she must be internalizing her misogyny or something? Because
Perhaps it was
that's the only justification I can think of from the perspective of an intersectional feminist. Like writing off the father from an intersectional feminist perspective, I can at least understand. But the stepmother? What was wrong with
well.
her?
It's possible that this was coming from a matter of maternal rights, and while the stepmother was infinitely better than the biological mother, the stepmother unfortunately probably does not have any legal rights to the child, and the biological mother obviously would have legal rights to the child.
Fucking hell. I just and the flippance in the tone as described is just we like again we are MRAs and we are on the internet, so obviously our perspective is going to be a bit biased against this kind of HR hag, but there are so many cases of intersectional feminist brats having precisely this vein of smugness. And I I get into regular arguments with my roommate because he did a psychology degree in college and he doesn't understand why I am so viscerally against the current psychological establishment. This
As you
shit
should show in this case.
this shit here is why. This shit here is precisely why.
Says post death developments and denunciation. After Angel's death in April 2026, Leva, along with elements of the court team, faced intense public and legal scrutiny. As they should, the father's lawyer, Roberto Castillo, filed a criminal complaint against her for charges including breach of public official duties, false expert report, and abandonment of a person followed by death.
Yeah,
Request
this is a negligent homicide on her part. Obviously, the book should be even more thrown at the abusive bio mom and her squeeze, but this woman should have all of her credentials stripped away. She's probably not going to because the lunatics running the asylum isn't just a meme when it comes to intersectional feminism. They literally are ideologically perverting psychology in the name of intersectionality. Look at Prim Reaper's videos on the APA guidelines for men and boys and the APA guidelines for women and girls if you don't believe me.
says requests included her preventative suspension from duties, prohibition on leaving the country, preservation of related records, and an independent forensic psychological audit of her work in this case and other cases. The Fundación Más Vida, no translations for that name, and others also denounced her and related professionals. The Superior Tribunal de Justicia de Chubat, like, Grok, please offer me some translations. I do not speak Spanish. Reportedly intervened in the interdisciplinary team of the family court. As of mid 2026, Leva's professional and personal situation remains under scrutiny amid the ongoing homicide investigation against the mother and her partner, with calls for accountability regarding institutional failures. This aspect of the case has fueled broader debates in Argentina about child protection systems, reunification policies, prioritizing biological ties, the weight given to children's expressed wishes, especially young ones, and alleged bias or oversights in family court proceedings, echoing criticisms from the earlier Lucio Deploy case, which we're going to discuss next. Details continue to emerge as investigations and potential disciplinary actions proceed. So, yeah,
The
this woman is under intense pressure, and all her other cases are being independently reviewed, which is a good thing because I'm probably sure that she's pulled this bullshit before and destroyed other families.
the only asterisk here, the only saving grace I will offer is that it's possible the AI might be hallucinating. I don't think so, but it is possible the AI might be hallucinating.
Possibly.
But
Hallucinating in
if
what
this
regard?
is independently verifiable, then yes, this woman needs to be in jail.
Okay, let's talk about Lucia Dupuy. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if not. Two La Pampa judges convicted Lucia Dupuy's mother on Tuesday of, Christ in heaven, sexually abusing her son.
Oh joy, the plot thickens again.
Magdalena Esposito Valenti is also serving a life sentence after she and her partner, Abigail Paez, were convicted of killing the 5-year-old in February, but only Paez had been convicted of abuse. So, Dupuy was killed on November 26, 2021, in the house he lived in with his mother and her partner. He died of brain damage caused by severe beating. Jesus in heaven.
Fucking hell.
This, is, this gets bad. Dalton, this gets really bad. Additionally, his body showed burns, bites, and internal hemorrhage. The autopsy also revealed that the child had been sexually abused in the weeks leading to his death.
That's just, again, this is. The word evil has to have a definition, and if this ain't it, I don't fucking know what would be.
Having her serve a life sentence is a waste of taxpayer money. They should just fucking execute this monster. There is no benefit for this person continuing to suck air.
Like, I mean, child abuse is bad enough. Pedophilic child abuse is is one step even further. But pedophilic incestuous child abuse that frequently devolved apparently into beating.
And
Just
burning.
like just kill this creature. They're like I'm all for redemption after a certain point, but again, if evil doesn't mean this, then what the fuck do we even have the word evil in our lexicon for?
See, Esposito was acquitted of sexual abuse during the February trial because the judge ruled there was not enough evidence to convict her on that charge. Although she was found guilty of homicide aggravated on the grounds for relationship to the child, cruelty, and malice aforethought. So the biological mother was not convicted of sexual abuse, but it would appear that her partner was.
Okay, so maybe that alleviates the incestuous part of the abusive pedophilia, but that doesn't change that that doesn't really change the what now must be done. We have reached the point where I'm just I'm my inner Stasi is coming out and going, that's amusing, please face the wall now. That's because why, and also I can't imagine how warped in the head either of these two women have to be to think that any of this is okay, let alone necessary to be a thing that happens.
See, however, prosecutors Maria Monica Rivera and Veronica Ferrero, so both the prosecutors are women in this case, and that's the thing. Like when you get like good women on a case like this, they are absolute sharks, especially lawyers.
As well, they should be because, like, this. If the sisterhood doesn't break in these kind of situations, what the fuck should we just like adopt the Chinese model and just stop having female children at that point? If the sisterhood can't be violated in the name of something this baroque, then women were a mistake. Lol.
Uh, the lawyer said that there was strong criminal evidence that was not properly evaluated during the trial. Judges Maria Eugenia Skid- Skivarger and Mauricio Piombi analyzed the evidence presented during the trial, included that Dupuis' mother had in fact carried out sexual abuse, dismissing February's acquittal. This is because the time of death determined by the forensic team placed her in the apartment at the time when the fatal beating and sexual assault happened. The court has now convicted Esposito Valenti of aggravated sexual assault. So she was responsible for that too, and she has also now been convicted of that. W attorney.
Also, one of the judges is female. It I really need I really needed something to restore my faith in the female half of the species,
No,
and it
no,
is.
no, no. The this female judge mentioned here is one of the persons that overturned the acquittal. So she
Yeah,
was
so good. Yeah, I it is worth noting that some of the strongest warriors against the women can do no wrong narrative are themselves women. So we don't need to genocide the female half of the species just yet, folks. There is hope. Hashtag not all.
so defense lawyers Maria Silvana Blanco Gomez and Alejandra Moyano Gonzalez are is it like 90% women involved in this case?
That the only male name that's been connected to things so far is one of the judges. So what we have here is women on women violence, and so much the better because there's something cathartic about that. And again, I needed a reason not to completely lose faith in the female half of the species.
Let's see. The defense lawyers had called for Esposito Valenti's acquittal, saying she wasn't there when the beating happened and that Paya's sentence be downgraded to manslaughter. They also challenged the credibility of biopsy results and psychological and psychiatric interviews done on the defendants, claiming they had been altered. Esposito Valenti and Lucio's father, Christian Dupuis, started a dispute over the child's custody in 2020 after they separated. The boy had been living under the guardianship of his aunt and uncle because his parents could not afford to support him. Dupuis wished for him to remain with him. So the father didn't even want the child to live with him because he knew he couldn't take care of him properly. Instead, wanted him to live with his aunt and his uncle who were taking care of him.
So the father in the scenario actually actually did the self-sacrificial, morally correct thing of even I am not capable of supporting them properly, therefore they should stay with the people who do and can. So
Yes.
the father is literally the only good guy in this scenario. Literally.
See, but Esposito, Valenti, and Pez were granted custody of him in November of that year. The couple's neighbors said they heard Esposito, Valenti, and Pez plotting to hurt him. So this was very much malice
Premeditated
aforethought.
child rape and murder. Lovely. Fuck.
While the mothers of Lucio's friends stated that he was not fed or taken care of, voice notes shared between the pair and later analyzed as evidence also showed they thought of him as a problem in the relationship. They thought of the little boy as a problem in the relationship. Why were you fighting for custody then?
because I'm guessing because they actually wanted him so that they could abuse him. That is the only that is that and the potential for child support money maybe. But that just makes it worse because incestuously pedophilically abusing a child to death is one of the most evil things it is possible for me to even conceive of. But pedophilic, incestuous child rape and murder that they then insist you pay them for is just straight up the most evil thing I think I've ever like that is the most evil sentence that has ever left my mouth.
So this has been one of the darker episodes of the Duality of Man by a country mile.
Yeah, holy fuck. Can these people please be thrown into the darkest, dingiest, most neglected oubliette we can find, please?
Yeah, I mean, when I first read about the Lucia case, I knew that he had died. I did not know about the sexual abuse.
Fuck. Just
The last, the last days of these innocent children were absolute fucking hell.
and and if there is any justice in the world, the remainder of these women's lives will also be hell because fuck them entirely.
I do recall back in April, following the Angel Lopez case, that there were mass protests um, in Argentina. I think being led by a mothers group who was organizing the mass protests, because people in Argentina were rightfully outraged at this terrible case and rightfully outraged at their government for this gross miscarriage of justice that led to the death of an innocent child, two innocent children.
Yeah, it's just unspeakable evil. That's all. Like I don't diagnose evil very often because I th- I find it hard to believe that capital E evil or capital G good are anything but exceedingly rare. But we found one of the rare cases that even I am looking at going, nope, that's just evil. That's just evil with a capital E, and we should all be ashamed that it was allowed to exist.
This, I do hope that the people of Argentina are able to make massive reforms to their judicial system, and I hope that the family court judges who turned over these innocent children to their monsters of mothers and their partners never get to practice law against. And I hope that psychology bitch loses her license to practice.
I hope she winds up in prison, frankly,
True, that as
because
well.
God only knows how many other cases like this where she has towed the proverbial intersectional feminist line a la Big Red, and how many other like obviously the phrase they're better off dead is a horrible thing to say, but for as bad as their deaths were, imagine what sort of people they would have had to have grown into. It reminds me of Anders Breivik, actually. Anders Breivik was famously abused by his mother, and no one cared until after he committed several acts of terrorism. Um, so maybe in the long run, they are better off dead, But you know what? As long as we're allowing the phrase "better off dead" to be in the discussion, everyone to blame in this situation would also probably be better off dead. Frankly, I don't I don't condone the death penalty under most circumstances, and I genuinely think we should avoid executions whenever possible.
I
But
do,
if this ain't where the line is, I don't know where the line is.
despite the precedents. Still, I don't think the boys are better off dead. I think that they had loving families around them. The court just interfered and gave them to the people who
Yeah, and
did not care about them. And
that's
so I feel like if
why
I feel like if they
everyone
had
involved
lived,
in
they
this
could
court
still.
system should be flogged at a
I
minimum.
feel like I feel like if the boys had lived with, with loving support around them and proper emphasis on proper psychological help, I feel like they could have been okay at least.
Yeah, yeah. It's just it's disgusting and reprehensible, and I hate everything involved in this scenario. I hate every one to blame in this scenario, and I hope that they are all disbarred. Whatever the psychological equivalent of disbarring is, and I hope they all spend the remainder of their natural lives in the deepest, darkest, most neglected oubliette we can find to stick them in.
Okay, so in the article, it didn't mention her cop, but it says that I looked it up on Rock. Says yes, Angel Nicola's biological mother, Mariela Beatriz Altamirano, was caught and remains in custody.
Okay, so one of them is caught. It's the lesbians who are at large, I believe.
No, no, I believe they're already they are in jail. Like I believe the mother's case is still in the process of going to trial.
Okay, good. Well, that means that those people are on their way to being in the aforementioned oubliette.
Yeah. It says there were rumors of an attack on her in prison, but reports clarified she was safe and isolated as needed. Because if there, even in a woman's prison, there are a lot of moms who probably would have killed her.
Yeah, this is one of those situations, like with every single last pedophile who actually acts on their urges, where if these women wind up in the unmarked grave underneath the jail, nothing of value will have been lost and justice will have been served. Because
She's,
again, it's just evil. I try my damnedest to operate by Hanlon's razor, but after a certain point, madness, or yeah, madness, incompetence, and evil are all in evidence.
it says Altamirano has denied killing her son, claiming she tried to protect him. Well, first of all, if you really wanted to protect him, you should never have come back into his life. And second of all, if you really wanted to protect him, you could have just given him back to his father.
And the stepmother, who by all accounts was better at taking care of him than you, even
So
if even if I'm going to allow the idea that you didn't do any of the shit, which I am skeptical of.
I'm willing to bet that she's putting this all on her boyfriend.
Yeah, well, the accountability gap is a thing, and yes, does that make me a prick for segueing this into a female accountability gap? A bit, but I'm being faced with capital E evil, so if you think my segue into the female accountability gap is unwarranted, then fuck you, I'm afraid. That's just how that works. I try to be reasonable, but being reasonable in circumstances such as these is it in and of itself unreasonable.
says her partner was also caught and remains in custody. Says he says that we are innocent and admitted only to minor corrections while
Well,
denying serious abuse. You know, Dalton, in the anime Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam, they also use the phrase corrections. And in that context, corrections mean punching and beating the crap out of the main
you
character.
you know where that was also a thing? In the Soviet Union under communism, there was a frequent situation where the KGB would track down dissenters and quote unquote apply corrections. So yeah, that's not totally Orwellian lingo or anything. And by the way, I don't care how pro spanking you are as a parent. If your definition of correcting your child's behavior is beating them within an inch of their life, not only are you wrong, but you should not have children. It is a moral imperative that society keep you from having access to children if that is your definition of discipline.
All right, I think I'm done with this episode. I don't want this case on my mind anymore. Do you have any final things to say, Dalton?
Just my God, I there are times when I worry about these sorts of things radicalizing me, but in instances like these, if you're not being radicalized, I genuinely worry for your sanity because it's one of those being sane in an insane world is itself insanity things.
Everybody, I've been Mystery.
I have been Dalton Mortimer, the Authenticator. May angels fly these two children to their respective rests, and we will see you all in a hopefully less Lovecraftianly disturbing episode in the next one. Cheers, guys.
Goodbye, everybody.